Hello everybody and welcome. Today is February 1st, 2021, and we got another great episode ahead of you today. Google Stadia is shutting down its internal development teams, EA is going to helm a new studio, and the Tomb Raider timelines may be being connected. I'm Garrett.
I'm Ben.
And you're listening to
Out of Mana.
All right, Ben, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. A little tired from the week today, but yeah. How about you, Garrett?
Same. I feel like this has been one of the fastest but longest weeks of my entire life.
It was definitely a fast weekend, and that ended pretty quick, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't really get weekends anymore because...
Yeah, what are those?
Yeah, I'm lucky that I do usually get 2 days off at my job, but it's not the weekend. But yeah, at my job, we had a COVID scare.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so luckily...
Mask up!
No one else got sick or anything, so it was just the one person that had it, and everyone got tested and they were negative, but unfortunately that took out like half our team just to be safe, isolation-wise.
What?
And so I was like the only supervisor left able to work, so rest in peace my day off, and
Oof.
I'm usually a closer, and I had to do a bunch of opens, and I'm just like, I'm so tired. It was...
Well, you got some rounded experience now.
Honestly, I kind of needed it because I became a supervisor and I did like one open during my training, and then it was just straight closes for since then. So
yeah.
it was good to know that I could still do it, and it was only like we only did half days anyway, so it wasn't too bad. Yeah, for you, we had crazy weather in California recently.
We had, well, it was supposed to be a monsoon. It was kind of half of one.
Yeah.
It rained pretty good, and I have to drive through a mountain pass to get to work at 5 a.m. and then back home at rush hour during the evening. And while it's monsooning and raining really hard, it's basically like driving through Mad Max with rain. There's just piles of wreckages on the side of the road. The mountain's collapsing.
It's true.
It's like liquid mud sliding down and washing people off in front of you. Like it's like a Crash Bandicoot course. You just have to stop and wait for something to happen, then you can go on. Otherwise, you'll get taken. And there's no reloads.
I can confirm, considering I used to do that for a few years. Not even exaggerating. Like even when weather is fine, that highway still has a crash.
That is
like
Highway 17.
Day. Highway 17, California.
And it is dangerous as hell.
It's a really windy road. And I remember when I first visited you a long time ago, It was a lot less. I don't think they even had a median.
They did. They've had a median since the mid 80s.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't before that.
That's insane.
And the horror stories I've heard from my parents is of people just basically sandwiching together often. And apparently when they first incorporated the median into the highway in the 80s, like people were rocketing off of it all the time because
oh my god,
they weren't used to it, and it was accidents happened a lot more back then.
Yeah, there's a bunch of twists and turns. It's one of those highways where it's like if it gets a little bit wet, everyone just doesn't know how to drive anymore.
It winds through the Santa Cruz Mountains, which is full of redwood trees, and it winds through on these precarious, twisted ridges and turns, and it goes over the summit. And then it slopes down to San Jose, the heart of the Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. I do not envy you.
Well, I don't envy me either.
Well, we got a lot of good news this week. Well, I don't know about good news.
We have interesting news. I wouldn't say it's good or bad. It's all interesting. It hasn't been super spicy, but it's been pretty interesting. There's some cool stuff.
Yeah, so let's just go ahead and start off with what we first mentioned in the intro, Google Stadia. So Ben actually just told me this. I somehow missed this in the news.
This was an interesting headline, and it had a lot of people kind of freaked out. So you might know Google Stadia from nothing because Google doesn't advertise it whatsoever.
After it's launched.
But you might know it from especially Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk released, and Google Stadia is one of the... It's been released through it, and it has been very successful compared to other platforms that Cyberpunk has been on.
Yeah, apparently it's had one of the more stable game experiences, because as you know, if you listen to this podcast, we mention Cyberpunk all the time and how buggy it is.
We always bring it up. Maybe not as harsh as some people, maybe not as good as some people, but basically with Stadia, Cyberpunk has been one of the feathers in its cap, and it's given it some good press. But pretty much the only press, because Google Stadia has no press, because Google has pretty much forgotten Stadia exists, quote unquote.
Yeah, so basically what is happening is Google Stadia is a game streaming service where as long as you have good enough internet, you can pretty much play the games that are in their library.
It's the Netflix of gaming.
Yeah, it's like the Netflix of gaming, and you're playing through their supercomputers, and so you should be experiencing the best possible experience, assuming that, again, you have the internet, which, quite frankly, most of America doesn't have the infrastructure built for that.
It doesn't have the infrastructure for a solid, unbroken connection. Like, a lot of us can enjoy extremely fast internet at this point. You know, we're no longer on Earthlink, we're no longer on dial-up, it's no longer 2003, we no longer have a HughesNet, thank God. But it kind of relies on the fact that your internet is never going to run down or get interrupted in any way.
Yeah, so if you're somewhere lucky like Kansas City or San Francisco where you have fiber.
Kansas City
was the first place to get fiber, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And I remember I lived in Missouri at the time. I'm like, it's an hour away. And meanwhile, I'm living out in the country where we don't even have like running water.
I remember very much trying to play online games with you when you lived out in the country, dude.
That was not fun.
That was not fun.
Luckily,
those were rough times.
My parents eventually upgraded to a better internet.
Yeah, and I was using HughesNet and he was even better.
That's pretty bad. So yeah, Stadia is shutting down its internal game development studios.
So a lot of people have read this headline. This isn't like a national disaster, but a lot of people have been reading the headline and being afraid that Google was shutting down Stadia itself. That is not so. It is just the internal game development studios that Google had set up for Stadia to create exclusive games for it.
Yeah, and to be quite honest, I don't even know if they've produced any games for it in the past 2 years or year and a half.
As far as I've heard, they have not. And I think it's only been a year, even, maybe a little more than that.
A little more than a year.
They basically haven't done anything with that as far as I know. But I can see why Google's stepping back. I mean, frankly, Google has been treating Stadia like it's the proverbial red-headed stepchild. No offense to redheads. But they haven't really given it much attention. So I can imagine that the development studios they had set up were not getting as much attention either. Maybe even funding, whatever. But Google's now shutting them down because of just lack of need.
Honestly, yeah. And this isn't unfamiliar with Google.
Yeah.
They're kind of masters at dipping their toes into every single thing. And if it fails, they're just like, okay, this is just gonna fade away. We're gonna ignore it, and in a couple years, we'll shut it down.
Oh, they go Looney Tunes with that. They dip their toes and they scream and pull their toe back out.
And they always have like a really big announcement period up towards it. Like Stadia was supposed to be like God's gift to Earth. It was gonna be the next thing. They launched. Everyone said it was okay. And then, like, after that, you just slowly forgot it existed. Like, when you mentioned this, I was like, oh, yeah, Google Stadia's a thing. Like, people use it, I think.
When I compared Stadia to Netflix a little earlier, it was a little more apt of a description than I meant because it's kind of like Netflix in the sense where Netflix will release a new original series. Oh, awesome. This is great. Season 1. Wow. What's going to happen with Season 2? Netflix cancel it. So, Google's known for doing that. They release a new product, like Garrett said, and then basically forget about it. It literally falls through a crack on their floorboards, and God only knows what their basement looks like. They're probably like Ringling Brothers Circus, like who knows?
Well, they've got the funding to be able to do these ventures. So.
They sure do.
I mean, it's cool that they tried, and again, Stadia isn't going away, so if you like Stadia or you're interested in it, it's still going to be there.
Yes.
You can still use it to stream games. They're just not going to be making any originals. So I wonder what that means.
What I think it means is I think Google's closing it because creating games is hard. Mm-hmm. Development games is hard. Being the owner of a game company is difficult because there's a lot of expectation, as we've now seen with poor CD Projekt Red, among other companies. I mean, I think Nintendo would be the only one that doesn't really consistently have failures because they actually meet their timelines.
You're kind of right. Now that I think about it, when was the last time there was a Nintendo game that people were just straight up disappointed with?
I mean, sidelining a bit, I would say Nintendo has a good trick up their sleeve. No, I'd say it's a good... What they tend to do is that they tend to announce their games about 3 months before they release.
That is true. You never know, like, 5 years in advance, the new Legend of Zelda is coming.
Exactly. They will make one trailer 2 or 3 years before, and then they'll say, oh, guess what? It's in 3 months now, guys. Mm-hmm. What Nintendo does is they make sure as hell it's ready and ready to go, to all degrees they can, and then they make the announcement and tell people a date. Mm-hmm. Before that, there's no date because they don't. God only knows what can happen, and they don't want to live by that. Mm-hmm. Unlike some other companies, as we now well know. But with Stadia, I think what they're planning to do is focus more on paying other external companies and franchising exclusive titles for their platform.
That would make the most sense because then you don't have to worry about creating a name for yourself.
Scapegoats.
Yeah. You can just, like you said, you can just pull in another studio and that studio makes an exclusive game for them. And there you go.
And it can be a studio with an already well-renowned name.
Yeah.
And experience and style, whatever they want. And they get a game and people are naturally drawn towards it. So guess what? They're getting Stadia now. Mm-hmm. And Google doesn't have to be responsible for it. Google just says, hey, we're the hosts. We didn't do anything.
Yeah. Stadia was one of those things that I was really interested in at first, but I just knew I didn't have the internet connection to support it because, again, I really love new innovation, especially in the gaming space, and I had high hopes for this, mainly because Google is like so rich.
Google is Google.
Their resources. I remember when they were talking about this, they had such big plans for Stadia. Like they were going to start rolling out like fiber more.
I think that's back when they were assuming fiber was going to actually be in places where people could access it.
Because their whole big thing was like, we know that not everyone has the internet for this, but we have Google Fiber and we're going to be trying to roll this out to as many places as we can so more people can get this.
So mind you, we live in the Bay Area. We live right next to Google. Google is about a 30-40 minute drive from here.
About 40 minutes.
And we don't have fiber.
Yeah.
We don't have it available. We don't live in, bumstick nowhere in the mountains. We live in right next to the beach in a destination area. No fiber yet.
In fact, we probably have tons of Google employees living right down the street.
We probably do. I could probably throw a rock and knock one of them out. So the point being is that Google it's kind of Google. Like they're not really, it's the same thing they did with Google Plus, their social media platform, if anyone remembers that. It was there. Nobody heard about it. You just kind of got annoyed of it on Gmail and then it was gone. It vanished. It blipped from existence.
I'm kind of sad that didn't work out. I remember when that first got announced, I was like, finally, like a reason to get off Facebook. Something new. Google, it's going to... One thing I do like about Google is that I can have everything in one place.
Well, they also had Google Groups. Remember that?
Yeah, like Hangouts and stuff.
Google Groups... No, they had like literal groups. It was like... Oh. It was like the Yahoo groups of the long past. They were basically forums, I think. Like you would call them that.
Again, they have literally everything.
And those are gone now.
Oh,
those no longer exist. But the point being is that I'm kind of glad I don't really need another social media platform. Personally, I'm speaking from me, but I'm kind of glad. I'm not glad it shut down, but I'm glad we don't have to deal with another one.
It wasn't that great. I remember trying to get into it and playing around with it just to see what I could do with my profile.
It was MySpacey.
It kind of was, actually. Yeah, now that I think about it.
It was very MySpacey. Is MySpace even around still?
It exists.
Was his name Steve? Is he still your friend?
Tom.
Yeah, Tom. MySpace Tom.
I think it exists. I remember what they did is after it died as a social media platform, it got brought into as like a music, like for smaller musicians to get themselves out there. Okay. Kind of became like a musician platform. And so some bands and artists were able to use MySpace to bring themselves up.
MySpace has always had a very music-focused aesthetic anyway, I feel like.
That is one of the things I miss about MySpace is back in the day when you had a MySpace page, that one of the biggest things is what song you put on your profile.
Well, remember like the HTML you put in to play the song?
Yeah.
Like that was some Neopets shop stuff. Like I loved that.
And that's the funniest thing is the people that were good at this stuff were the kids that play Neopets because they were already like, oh, you HTML, could do some
HTML wizardry on Neopets. I mean, some of you were probably laughing, oh, haha, Neopets, silly. But back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, Neopets was fun. If you were a kid of that age, even some adults, probably some select adults, but it was fun. And you could do some HTML stuff to edit your page, and you had shops in the game. And MySpace was the exact same thing in the sense where you could HTML it up the ass.
Yeah, you could change your background so it was animated. You could have a song playing. You could even have like a whole playlist.
It was cool. It was cool.
I'm surprised that Facebook hasn't done more
because people
just want simplicity.
People don't care. Yeah. People want simplicity. People don't want anything that's going to not work. or be annoying, God forbid.
Yeah.
Which a lot of those I remember being actively scared of loading web pages back then because the music might blast.
Okay, you're not wrong. I remember going onto some people's pages and it just like starts off really loud.
It starts playing like The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, and you're just like, oh,
You're not wrong.
it's too loud.
MCR.
Oh my God. Or some Green Day, some sick American idiot,
Honestly, I guarantee I had that as mine.
or some brain stew.
Man, I wish Facebook would at least let you have a page song. But again, MySpace was a page, whereas Facebook is just more of like a timeline.
This is kind of, I mean, MySpace was kind of the Wild West. Like, back then, it was very Wild Westy, where you can kind of do a lot of things, and now there's probably a lot more legalities they have to deal with.
You're not wrong, yeah.
So that might be part of the reason why Facebook hasn't quite dipped their toes in it screamed like Google.
Yeah, back then, I doubt you were getting shut down like within 30 seconds for using music that was licensed and all that kind of stuff.
The Wild West has kind of been killed off, basically like in our American history. It's been kind of changed a lot.
So we digress from MySpace. So yeah, Google Stadia, it's still going to be around. One of these days, I want to try it out.
Yeah.
Once maybe I get a better internet connection someday. Because in theory, it's a good idea. But frankly, most people who are gamers have consoles.
Yep.
And consoles just work. You don't need internet.
Yeah, they're kind of focusing on their actual consoles, not a streaming console, which might take off, but they should have started off by sending CDs in the mail. Netflix.
Oh, good old Netflix. Those are the good old days. I remember coming home from school and like my new movie was sitting there and I was excited.
My mailbox back then was like 2 miles away, and I remember running to get the newest movie in, or the newest whatever TV show I ordered. And if it wasn't there, I'd be like so upset. I'd be no. And then I'd go back to my parents like, did you send the CDs back? No, we hadn't yet.
You have to wait a whole week for it to get back and they send you the new one.
I think I've still got some Netflix CDs that kind of got lost in the shuffle, so...
Oh, I'm sure I have some. I'm sure one game I have in my collection at my parents' house.
I also have some GameFly too. Yeah. Sorry guys, we're those assholes. But on the note of Google closing down a studio, we also have something that's creating a new studio. Our next topic.
Yeah. So EA, Electronic Arts, is creating a new video game studio called Full Circle,
and I believe that's going to focus specifically at the time right now on creating a new sequel to the Skate franchise.
Yeah, so Skate came about along the popularity of Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yep.
A little later, honestly. Like, there was plenty of Tony Hawk.
It was mid-2000s. I think it was about 2006 or 2007.
I was thinking
it was 360.
2006, I think. Or, no, 2007. I want to say, if I were to guess, 2007. And they were cool. The thing that Skate did differently was it was... Honestly, it was harder, in my opinion, which is why I never played them. But the tricks that you did, you kind of manually used the analog stick was like your foot, and you were kicking the board, and you actually moved the board. It's kind of hard to explain. You know what I'm talking about, though?
No, I know, dude.
You have full control of the tricks you were doing, whereas in Tony Hawk, you go off the jump and you just hold square and you move the analog stick and it does its own thing.
So comparing these two apples, you could say apples to oranges, but comparing these two, basically Tony Hawk was the more gamey one.
Yes.
And Skate was the more...
Simulation,
yeah.
More real. It was supposed to be more real.
Tony Hawk at that point was... Tony Hawk the series always concentrated on celebrities. Mm-hmm. All the skaters, all the cool guys in their thing, anyone from Bam Margera to Mike Vallely. I mean, they had all of them. They had Mike V and everyone, and they were all cool. But Skate came along and they're like, we're going to focus on actually giving you the experience as well as all the cool gear.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, you know what? We want to make it feel like real skating, and real skaters know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they know how the movements work.
And that was when Guitar Hero was taking off and everything.
Was.
So you were watching professional guitarists fail at Guitar Hero, and then watching professional skateboarders fail at Skate.
Yeah, and even I think it was Skate, or was it Skate or Tony Hawk that came out with a literal like peripheral. I know Tony Hawk did it.
I want to say it was Tony Hawk first, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I hated it.
That was a dumb idea. I
stopped playing those types of games when the boards you had to stand on came out. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna go ride a real skateboard.
Yeah, you might as well go buy a real skateboard.
I've had that argument since that was new, and I come home from school or whatever at the time. if I'm gonna stand on a board, I'm gonna go stand on an actual board. I want to sit down. I want to play a game. That's what I want to do.
And I love how I'm saying this as I literally spent so many hours of my life playing a plastic guitar instead of a real guitar. But like, I feel like it's a little bit different.
I agree. I'm inclined to. I mean, they're both skills, but I'm inclined to agree.
Anyways, so I think there was 3 skate games out. So if they were to make a new skate game, it would be Skate 4. Now the question is, are they going to be making Skate 4? Or are they going to just reboot the series like, you know, what everyone's doing? Like God of War is just redoing God of War. And, you know, they're just... What's another game that recently did that?
What I think is going to happen is I think that they're going to basically redo it / reboot it.
That would be the smartest idea.
I don't know if they're going to call it a Skate 5 or whatever you want to call it, but I think they're going to call it Skate. And I think it's going to be Skate of the new generation.
Yeah.
Skate the next generation, if you want to say.
It's been long enough since the last one where people have forgotten about it, and you need the new generation.
And they're going to bring it back. I mean, Tony Hawk very successfully just redid the first and second game. And personally, I've always been a Tony Hawk fan. I've never really been much of a fan of Skate. It's fun, but I always like Tony Hawk more. Mm-hmm. And that was very successful. And I think that's exactly why EA is doing this, is because they realized that this is a market that they let die, and that they're going to bring back and make money on.
Yeah, exactly.
And thank God, no more interactive boards. Just controllers, please. Please, only controllers. No more boards.
So it looks like the producers from the original Skate franchise are going to be coming along too. So if you enjoyed the last games, you have you got the same kind of people coming back.
It should be reminiscent as well as new. So it's going to be good.
Now the question is this going to be fully focused on just skate games, or are they going to use this new studio to develop other things too?
I think this is going to be the introduction for them, for that studio. They're going to create this, show their chops, all that good stuff. But yeah, that's a good question, dude. EA is kind of known for having specialist studios that only make specific types of games. Mm-hmm. So following EA standard, I would say it's probably only going to be skate or skate-like games. But who knows? Who knows what EA is going to do? Because this is kind of surprising, to put it mildly.
So I'm doing a little bit of on-the-fly reading right here, and it says that Full Circle is going to be led by Daniel McCulloch, the former head of Xbox Live and Microsoft, and then the returning skate producers are Darren Chung and Cuz Perry.
Okay.
So that's good news. Yeah, if you like skate, it sounds like they got a pretty good lineup. Right?
It seems like it's going to be very well reminiscent then, so that's good.
Do you think you're gonna play it?
I do want to give it a try. I think I will give it a try depending on what I'm into at the time and depending what I'm engrossed in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who knows? Maybe this time around everything won't be just Vans inside, because I think Vans must have had a very strong handhold on the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 reboot that just came out, because everything in the game was Vans.
Oh, was it really?
Maybe I think I mentioned this in one of our other episodes, but like I don't recall those games originally being only Vans.
My guess is that they probably had to do some kind of sponsorship to get the funding for this game. Mainly because one, it was a reboot, and like, it's been a long time since they made a game. They probably just did not have the funds.
When I was watching the trailers for it, the announcement trailers, I was going like, oh man, they're bringing back Tony. Oh sweet. Oh, I can't wait to see some old skate culture. And then I'm looking, I'm like, it's all Vans, which is awesome, great company and everything, great shoes, etc. But I seem to recall there being a distinct lack of early 2000s skate gear in this reboot of the early 2000s game, which nobody cares about except me. But I'm
sure other people noticed it though.
I missed the early 2000s. I would love to have some bulky skate gear, and I was kind of bummed that it was all just Vans.
Well, the games did incredibly well, which I'm sure is exactly why EA is doing.
And that's exactly what I wanted, and I'm sure a lot of people wanted, because we've all been hoping for this to come back. Thank God they did the Tony Hawk 1 and 2, and thank God EA is now dipping their big foot into it.
Yeah, EA's been doing okay. EA with the whole loot box situation years ago.
It was another success by the Lords of Reddit.
Was it?
I mean, I'm just attributing it to them, but the Lords of Reddit would say that their voice was heard and EA listened.
honestly, Reddit nowadays, they can do all kinds
Well, a lot of them are
things.
now gods. Like, a lot of them have ascended to godhood by investing in what they invested in. Like, some of them are multi-millionaires now.
The game stonks. Oh my
Yep.
gosh, I wish I would have bought some stonks
Dude,
in GameStop.
I said this on Twitter, but where was this secret meeting held? I am an avid Reddit user, and I missed out on this meeting. And then at the end of a workday, I look and I see that everyone is buying stock. I'm like, what the hell?
They're buying stonk, not stock.
Dude, I could be involved in this, and I didn't know. I'm one of you.
Yep, Wall Street bets on Reddit. I guess we'll mention it briefly. I'm not very good at explaining this, but short story. Basically, a hedge fund was trying to short the GameStop, basically. And so shorting just basically means betting against. And I guess Reddit got word of this, and
Reddit went full force into it, tidal wave into it. And basically, we haven't seen the result yet. The result is still to come. But what we're seeing is that Reddit basically destroyed this hedge fund company.
Yeah, so basically when they were shorting it, they basically predicted GameStop was going to do very poorly, and then when they give the stocks back, they basically make profit.
And I can't remember the name of the company, but it's owned by a parent company who's a very big deal in the stock market.
Yes.
I think it has a weird name like Infinite or
Citadel.
That's
Yep,
it. That's
Citadel.
it. And so that's a big deal because they're basically untouchable. They can basically write their own laws for the stock market, and so have. And so are, because they are basically doing some very questionable things right now in order to stop their Redditors.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So basically what happened, I'm pretty sure like stock prices were very, very low for GameStop. I mean, from what I looked at, I think it was like $6, then it got to $20, and then when Reddit came in, everyone bought.
So this is how you play the stock market.
Yeah.
And if you have a tidal wave of people, literally, you can play the stock market. You buy low, and the more that buy, the higher it goes, because guess what? The company means something now.
Supply and demand.
And, you know, if you're with your fellows, you shouldn't sell your stocks yet. But any smart Redditor who is a poor person and suddenly realizes that they now have 30,000 shares of $1 stock, or maybe even less than that, and the stock is now $30 each, $50 each, $300 each.
It got up to like 320 something.
They are selling. I'd be a complete piece of shit and I'd sell too. So, yes. The Reddit played the game. That is how you play the stock market, and they played it.
Yeah, and from what I remember, I think the hedge fund owed like $6 billion. It was like, I might be getting my numbers mixed up. It was at least $3 billion. I think I got up to
I think it went up to $13 billion.
13 billion.
Again, I'm saying this from very loose information because I didn't really look that much into it. I don't care that much. I was just kind of bummed I missed out, but I'm sure we all are.
Well, what happened was Robinhood is an app that you can do investments on.
Owned by the Citadel.
It is, yeah, and it's owned by Citadel. And what happened was they actually limited being able to buy more stocks.
So you can no longer buy, you could only sell. So they were basically forcing, in a sense, they were forcing people to sell. Mm-hmm. They were hoping that the stock market prices would start to waver, so then the people would have to sell. And that would cause it to kind of collapse.
Yeah, it would make it go back
because
down.
no one could buy anymore, and that's a very popular platform to buy from. So they were hoping that would cause the prices to collapse.
And man, everyone was pissed. Robinhood is basically off the map now. The internet has shamed them to the earth, and they have gotten. I've used it before, and they're sending out emails, like apology emails and explanations of like, because of the variance and because of the deposits and this and this and this. They tried to explain it all, but I mean, you link it back. They're owned by Citadel. Like,
Citadel is the biggest piece of shit company in the stock market ever. So if you're one of the Redditors who did this, bully for you. If you're one of the people who don't play in this stock market at all, bully for you too. Because it's a rich man's game, and basically you're just a golf ball on the course, and they're hitting you around.
It kind of made me sick, honestly. Like, I've been interested in stocks for a long time, and I've never really gone all in because I just don't have like funds to go play around. I mean, I can buy a stock here and there, but it's like you really only make money if you put in a good amount.
Yeah.
And just after seeing this and just knowing how much corruption there is, I actually ended up watching this movie called The Big Short, which came out in 2015, and it was about the financial crash in 2008, I think, the housing crash, and how some of these companies shorted the banks.
So there's a very notable thing that happened, and I don't know if they put it in the movie. I haven't seen that movie. But there was a notable thing where the people were rioting on Wall Street, and the Wall Street Richie Riches, the upper crust, the classist people were sitting on their balcony above all the crowd and drinking champagne and pouring it on the crowd.
Did they really?
Yes.
Oh my god.
That's a forgotten moment in history. But that is literally one of the best examples of classism at its finest.
If you're interested in this story at all, like I guarantee anyone who's listening has heard about what's going on. If you haven't watched The Big Short, this was my first time watching it. You should watch it because it really shines a light, because it's based on a true story. All these peoples and these companies.
Super Size Me.
Yeah, it was God, it was disgusting. Like the amount of classism you said, the amount of arrogance that these bankers had, because they just knew that they were just
classism,
effing people.
That's all classism.
It was disgusting, and the worst part is almost none of them went to jail. The movie said one guy went to jail.
Scapegoat.
It was like one scapegoat. It was so sad.
That stuff is very good. And if you want another good example of hedge fund kind of taking advantage of the stock market, this is a very weird subject for our podcast.
I know.
But there's another movie, an old movie, dramatized and not true, but the mechanics in the movie are true. It's called Death of a Scoundrel, and that is a movie where a guy does exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. He comes in and he knows how to play the stock market like a fine-tuned violin, and he does just that. And he pays for it in the end, but it's a very, very good example of what you can do and what is still being done to the stock market.
Oh, God. It blows my mind. It's just a really crazy scene. Anyways, sorry for that tangent. It is very relevant, though, because GameStop, I mean, I'm just curious.
GameStop is back, basically. As it stands now, GameStop might be back, and good.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, they obviously, tons of people bought into their company, and now the
ruins of GameStop might start glowing brightly again.
I'm very curious to see where this goes, because they could, I mean, with that much, they might be able to, change their whole.
I hope they open a location in town again.
That would be nice. Maybe
that would
with
be
some
very
nicer
nice.
coworkers.
Maybe with some nice people that aren't like an angry.
Dude, I'll never forget that guy.
Forgotten stepchild that is just lashing out at customers.
I remember when I first moved here, I went to GameStop, and this guy was basically like. He basically treated me like I was stupid, like I didn't know what I was doing when I was buying a game. I asked like a very acceptable question, and he like, do you remember what I said? Do you remember what it was?
I thought you were asking about their credit thing.
Oh my God, that's right. I was like a GameStop member, and so I was just like asking about some kind of discount that I got. And he was just like being a shit about it, and he was telling me like, no, that's not how it works.
Basically, he was being like an orderly, and Garrett was the unruly patient, and he was grabbing Garrett and patting his head and injecting the needle slowly and going, "It's okay, calm down, it's okay, it's not real, calm down."
I was so frustrated.
And Garrett was, and it was, as someone who witnessed this live, I can say it was infuriating to watch this guy be a complete and utter shit.
Needless to say, he lost his job, so sorry, buddy.
Yeah, so that's the location that closed down. So he did in fact lose his job, which, we shouldn't. We don't want to be classist about that. Pour champagne on him, but yeah, he was kind of a shit.
Well, we'll see what GameStop does with their newfound funds.
Yeah.
Well, on a next subject, you probably know more about this than me because you've played a lot more of the games in this.
Yes, this is the Tomb Raider announcement.
Yes.
So, announcement being loose. Basically, the plan is that, so you all know that Tomb Raider is an old game. Mm-hmm. And we all know that it's been rebooted. Controversially, there's a bit of a divide in the community over if it's a worthwhile reboot or not. Most people are saying yes. But what they're planning to do now is they're planning to take the two storylines, the two timelines, they're going to take the canon from each of the versions of Tomb Raider, and they're going to combine them somehow. Like, they're going to figure out a way to mesh them together.
Yeah, so the newest reboot is a trilogy by Crystal Dynamics, which is under Square Enix.
It's basically the Katniss reboot.
Yeah. It is.
So you had the Angelina Jolie, the original. She wasn't the original because the 90s one was still kind of her own thing. But Angelina Jolie just happened to look just like her in the best way possible. And it was great. It was amazing. And then the series kind of died. It faltered off in the 2000s. By after 2010, it was kind of off. And then it was brought back. Then it came back, and it came back as Tomb Raider. nothing else. Mm-hmm. You know, you might add a Hunger Games there too, but it basically became Tomb Raider, and it was now less. It was less of a puzzle sneak. It was less of a puzzle exploring game, and it was more of a sneaking assassin game. It became more Assassin's Creed than Assassin's Creed was at that point, basically. So it was an interesting change to this series because Tomb Raider has always been very action platformer, and that was kind of it. With like intense puzzles in between, you know, intense being relative to how intense you find the puzzles.
Well, at the time we were children, so they were probably quite intense to us.
They were fun. The new Tomb Raider doesn't quite do that, in my opinion. Excuse me. Yes, but yeah, now they're planning on incorporating those two canons together. So the original Tomb Raider series had a very interesting backstory, so to speak. It retconned itself here and there, not too badly. You got some more info into Laura's past in Tomb Raider Legend. If any of you played that was a very good game.
That came in like 2006 or something, right?
I think it was 2006 because it was on the 360.
Okay, that makes sense.
And yeah, that was a good game. I mean, I loved that game. I hated Amanda.
I didn't play it. I just remember the cover very well. It was like a close up of her face, and it said Tomb Raider Legend.
Yep. And then Tomb Raider Anniversary came out after that, I believe, and that was a big deal because the graphics were way better.
Was it a reboot or not?
Anniversary was a remake of the first game,
the very first one,
and a very well done remake.
Cool.
Tomb Raider Legend was a revitalization after the not so critically acclaimed Angel of Darkness game.
So Angel of Darkness, was that the last game that the very beginning? Because I think it was Core Design, right? Were they the ones that?
So Eidos owned the company. Eidos owned the franchise, and Core Design was one of their development groups that developed Tomb Raider games.
Gotcha.
And they did it to a very good extent. You know, very well, very good. Like I just said, and Tomb Raider, then Angel of Darkness came, and it was more. It's really hard to explain this game because it was very early 2000s edge. Like you had a lot of Shadow, a lot of Angel of Darkness kind of stuff where she was riding a motorcycle and jumping around and sliding down ropes.
Did she have like black wings and a dark halo and horns?
I mean, it wasn't Dark Angel, but, you know, it wasn't that, but it wasn't a great game. I only rented it. That was one I never purchased because I rented it and I didn't like it that much because it basically didn't really have many tombs being raided. It was more urban.
I know. I love when games have something like Tomb Raider, and then like there's maybe one tomb in the whole game. You're not actually raiding any tombs. I mean,
Tomb Raider's it had a history of that at that point. Tomb Raider 2 had a lot of urban environments as well, but they kind of leaned in more of the splitting the line, because in Tomb Raider 2 you go to Venice and a few other places, and you kind of, you know, you're in environments that aren't Forgotten Tombs.
Well, I mean,
and there was even a shipwreck at one point.
I mean, I guess you could consider anything a tomb, assuming something died in it, and
plenty of So this isn't Nathan Drake. We're not talking about the modern, you know, Grim Reaper here, but Laura kills plenty, and in Tomb Raider 2, you killed plenty. So all those places became final resting places for plenty of lives.
She could have been creating the tombs.
She was basically creating the tomb. She was interring many people there. But Angel of Darkness, critical failure, basically what happened, and then Crystal Dynamics was given the reins, and they made Tomb Raider Legend, and that brought back the series. It had a brief spark in the series again, and it was good. It was a very good series, a good title. You know, you got a lot of backstory. You got to play some flashbacks of Laura with her stupid, annoying, whiny best friend Amanda, who thank God gets crushed to death by debris, but not.
Or so you think.
Or so you think.
And she'll never let you forget it.
God, she is the whiniest, most vengeful, and just never dies and never listens. I'm sorry, Amanda. I didn't mean to. Oh, I want to be friends, Amanda. No, I'm angry and vengeful. I should have died years ago, but I didn't. Now I'm going to kill you, Laura. So I should have said spoiler. I mean, they're not God,
it's an old
game. Who
yeah,
cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, you find out a lot of cool stuff, though. It's a great game, despite Amanda and her edgy tattoos and weird mid-2000s hair. She looks like something straight out of Charlie's Angels.
Now, doesn't Tomb Raider get extremely fictional
Oh, Tomb Raider is always fictional. It's always been fictional.
Like super.
Tomb Raider 1, you encounter an Atlantean god, and she summons like a giant torso creature near the end. You go to Atlantis. It's weird. Tomb Raider 2, the gang leader bad guy. It's a very weird gang because you don't know what the hell they actually are. But he turns into a dragon at the end, a jade dragon. And
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah, and then Tomb Raider 3. I don't remember what happened to Tomb Raider 3, to be honest. Tomb Raider Legend, basically, there's some kind of... It's Excalibur. It's the sword Excalibur. And Amanda gets involved. And it turns out the sword takes you to Avalon. And Amanda's very upset because she didn't get to go to Avalon. And in the process, I think Laura's mother goes to Avalon.
What is Avalon again? Is it just some...
You got me, babe. I don't know. I really don't know because you never go in the game. If I'm not mistaken, Tomb Raider Legend kind of ends on a cliffhanger in a sense, where Laura's like, I'm going to go find my mother in Avalon. Because she thought her mother died. Mm-hmm. And her mother went to Avalon instead, according to Amanda, the bitch who now has to thank every breath she takes to Laura's mercy. So... I don't remember ever going to Avalon in any of the other games, but basically, if they're going to include the canon of this into the new Tomb Raider, they're gonna have to figure out. I mean, Laura's mother's in Avalon, apparently.
So we're definitely going to Avalon.
So there's, the new Tomb Raiders have their own weird, fantasy stuff going on.
Yeah, so the new trilogy is supposed to be an origin story.
Yes.
But isn't there like origin story in the original games too?
Well, Amanda.
Like you play as kids, right?
Yes.
So
you are a child, Laura, and Amanda's a child getting crushed by debris, yes.
So, I mean, again, you mentioned you kind of played the new ones. I haven't played them at all.
So I played most of the original new one, the Tomb Raider.
The first one?
The first one.
Okay.
I played like an hour of the second one. I got bored and I stopped playing them. The sneaky henchman killing, it just got old.
We should try to go back and play them.
I agree. I do agree.
I have no excuse because PlayStation Plus like gives out free games all the time, and so far I've gotten 2 of the 3 games for free.
I do agree.
I have no excuse.
I really do agree. I should play through them, and I did enjoy some of the tomb raiding aspects of them. Mm-hmm. But they just felt too Nathan Drake-y. Nathan Drake doesn't have sneaking, but they had that kind of sense of it to me, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of the original series. I'm one of those people. I'm one of I'm in that tribe. I don't like the other side.
You want tank controls again?
I liked. There was something about. I don't know. I can't relive that. It's nostalgia. Nostalgia is an evil thing in your mind that is bitter and angry towards anything new. So it's hard to fight that. Excuse me.
So a funny story with my Tomb Raider experience. I forgot which one I owned. I had one of them.
Oh, I already know where this is going.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I never finished it because I got so frustrated.
That was Tomb Raider 2.
It was Tomb Raider 2?
No, I'm sorry. It was Tomb Raider 3.
3? I'm pretty sure it's the one where she has like the glasses on and she has like 2 guns and she's firing.
But it was in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
There was a spike trap. Go on.
Yeah, okay. So that game was so weird. I mean, you have all these wild animals trying to kill you all the time. Basically, yeah, there's a point in the game where you go down this like slide
at the beginning of the game.
Is it literally at the beginning? It's
literally at the beginning of the game. If it's Tomb Raider 3 and I'm remembering correctly, it's the slide at the beginning of the game. It's in like that jungly.
Yeah, you're in a jungle.
It's been I haven't played Tomb Raider 3 since it was very close to new. So excuse me, but it's like a slide and you're in the jungle and there's a spike trap. I'll let you finish, Garrett. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you start off the game. I'm pretty sure you're getting attacked by tigers or something, and you kill the tigers or some kind of wild jungle creature. Yeah, you get to this slide, you go down it. I don't know what's at the bottom, and it's either a fire trap or a spike trap.
I think it was a spike trap.
And I don't know if there was autosaves back there or I was an idiot, but I saved right as it was happening while I was getting damaged or dying. And so I had saved right as I was dying. And so every time I reloaded my save, I would just die instantly.
He showed this to me. I was witness to this, where he would just reload, reload, reload,
And I was so frustrated that I just never finished the game, which is funny because you're telling me that it's at the beginning of the game. I don't know why I just didn't.
I'm pretty sure it's at the beginning.
It's within the first 30 minutes, probably.
I'm pretty sure.
I just had trouble with that game for some reason. I don't know if it was the controls or if it was just...
I mean, Garrett, you and a lot of people. I mean, Tomb Raider is known.
It had the tank controls, right?
They weren't quite tank controls, but they were pretty damn close.
Yeah, I just remember aiming was really difficult, and you had limited ammo.
Yep.
You're being attacked by wild animals, and they take so many shots to die. So I'm out of ammo. It's almost Resident Evil, except not Resident Evil.
It's kind of a scary game because the game is very awkward. I mean, it is tank controls in a sense where it's awkward and hard to move, and things are coming at you and they're big. Mm-hmm. Like Tomb Raider 2 with a massive golem monster and all that crap. Tomb Raider is a varied series, and in the new franchise, I haven't played enough of it, but I only hope they harken back to some of that weird shit.
I'm gonna make a point to go play through them at some point. They're probably not super long games, so I could probably grind through them. Because this is exciting. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. They haven't announced.
I am really curious to see how they're gonna do this.
Yeah,
I hope they bring some of the mechanics back too. I hope they kind of go less with the Katniss, Hunger Games, sneaky Assassin's Creed mechanics, and they go for some kind of original Tomb Raider. I guess you could say tank mechanics. I want some of that.
We'll have to see, because I know a lot of people like these games, so they might not.
It's a series that refuses to die.
Yeah,
and I want to see Angelina Jolie back. I know she doesn't look the same anymore, but I want to see her back as Laura.
So we're gonna have Tomb Raider, we're gonna have Uncharted games, and then we're also gonna have Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
which we listened to last week. So we've got a lot of good adventure games.
Dude, that just stoked me right up. Yeah.
So that's the biggest news. I got a few other things I can mention before we wrap the show up. So I think it was just today actually. The what's it called? The God of War studio?
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, so God of War won Game of the Year in 2018, I'm pretty sure, is getting a free upgrade, a graphical performance upgrade for PS5, and you're going to be able to play in 60 FPS with 4K.
It's basically getting remastered. Like, it's getting what Witcher is going to get, it's getting what Cyberpunk is going to get, despite the fact it just came out, and it's... It's going to be awesome. Like, this is going to be really cool.
This is a really, really beautiful and fun game. And
now it's going to be more beautiful and more fun. And smooth.
I might have to go back. Honestly, this...
Come on, don't go back. We need to play Tomb Raider.
I know.
We still need to play Hollow Knight.
There's all these games I need to play, but then cool stuff like this happens where it's like, okay, this game would be really fun in 60 FPS. Because I was just playing in 30 and it looked great.
You aren't wrong.
So that's really cool. So look forward to that. It's literally happening. Actually, by the time you're listening to this, it'll already be out. They basically announced, and it's going to be the next day.
It's happening. It is Monday today, and it is coming out in 2nd. Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
So yeah,
that's cool. And I almost forgot. The new February games for PlayStation Plus are actually really good. So we've got Control, the Ultimate Edition, which is important because. Ooh. The Ultimate Edition is the version that's getting the free PS5 upgrade, next gen upgrade.
So that adds another to the list of the upgrade games.
So that's good value right there, which is good because I only have the original version, which wouldn't get the upgrade.
And it's so outdated now.
It's such an old game. It looks terrible.
Oh my god! How can you even bother?
Then we're also getting Concrete Genie.
Concrete Genie. That one looks pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
It's aesthetically very interesting. It kind of reminds me. It kind of reminds me of God, I can't remember the name of the game now.
It's very, very pretty. It's a PS5 exclusive, or sorry, a PlayStation exclusive.
I want to say Ori and the Blind Forest. It kind of has that vibe to it.
Yeah, it's very bright.
more neon.
Yeah, and I don't really know the story. I know you play a kid, and I think there's probably touch controls and stuff like that with the pad, where it's like, I don't remember the story exactly. I had listened to a podcast and they were explaining it. But it
looks cool. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, apparently it's about him. I think he's getting bullied and stuff like that, or he's dealing with bullies. And
little misfortune minus the murder.
I guess it's one of those you go through this experience and you learn about how to be a better person or something like that. It's one of those feel good games. It's not a long game.
Little misfortune, yeah. Okay.
And then the third one is Destruction All Stars, which has been
that's the from the Destruction Derby, was it? It's a kind of a sequel, right?
Yeah, I think it's in the same vein. It's just one of those big arena things. They were talking about it a lot when they were talking about PS5 and stuff like that. It's supposed to be one of the launch games.
I mean, that's kind of a big deal. I mean, that was on the original PlayStation. You and I should remember playing that.
Destruction Derby.
Yeah.
God, I forget a lot of games that we played.
So that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it'll be in the same lines of that.
And those types of games are popular now. Rocket League and all those kind of things where you're riding around, bumping into each other.
Exactly. I don't know all the details, but I remember watching the trailers and it looked like a fun time. So
Streamer bait.
I know. Oh, that's actually a good idea.
Keck.
Well, it's free now, so that's awesome if you have PS Plus.
Sweet.
This is a really good month for it.
Totally. I'm stoked about the control thing. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that because that's on my backlog. It's actually after I finish the Spider-Mans, that's the next game I'm playing. So now I get to play even better. Last month was pretty good too for January. They gave, it was like Greedfall, which I heard pretty good things about. It's like an RPG. It wasn't like fantastic. It didn't do anything new, but it was just like a solid, like I guess it's kind of Fallout-y in a way, apparently.
Okay.
At least I think that's what I read. And then there was Maneater. That was free last month. That's where you play as a shark and you literally just like eat people.
A lot of people are enjoying that game immensely just for its sheer cheese factor.
Yeah, it's just a game. It's just a video game.
If you played the original Jaws game, I think it was on the PS2. That was exactly what that game was too. You just swam around and gobbled up beachgoers. It was fun.
And it apparently gets ridiculous where you start like modifying your shark.
And you could go, I think you could go on land.
I'm sure you can.
I think you can actually go onto land. I don't think you can walk onto it, but you can go on land and eat people on the shore.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I got it. I downloaded it. I should definitely play it sometime. That'd be a fun thing to do.
Do that.
That would actually be a fun stream game.
Exactly.
Oh, there's all these good stream games that come on. Ooh. Speaking of that, I did spend a little bit of money, and I got myself a Elgato Keylight Air.
Ooh, that's top of the line.
It is.
That's what you call brand. Brand name.
So I finally got lighting. Yeah. So my problem was I was doing some streaming, and the lighting in my room is god awful. It's like very bad, warm lighting.
The house was built in 1989, so yeah.
It was really bad. I was trying to do these streams and like my lighting was super bad. I looked like crap and like I didn't want to.
People looked like crap.
Well, like I didn't want to look at myself and all these shadows and you could barely see me. And you know how webcams work, where it's like if
they make you look like extra crap.
They make you look extra crap, and if the lighting's bad, it's like laggy. Like I was looking at my webcam and I'm like, it's 1080. It's supposed to be 60 FPS, but with bad lighting, it looks like garbage.
We all know the number one rule to streaming is you have to look good.
Of course.
You look good, or you look good.
Exactly.
There's nothing else.
That's all that matters. It doesn't matter about the gameplay. It's
nothing else.
Focus on me.
Yes. You got to get one of those angel lights.
I know. You got the angel light.
I got the angel one, yeah. Well, you got an Elgato. I mean,
I know I got the Elgato, so now I have like all these lumens blasting on my face.
That's primo lighting. You have to look closely. You don't see that. You don't see it flashing or ticking at all like a Rolex. You know it's a real one because it goes smooth action.
So I have no excuse anymore. So I should definitely try to get on that.
Sweet, dude.
So do you have anything else to add before we wrap up the show?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
The game Medium released.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
We did talk about that one. So that's the psychological horror thriller, whatever you want to call it, game that released recently, and to relatively mixed reviews at first. So I actually didn't buy it because I was kind of put off by some of the reviews. But as time is going on, the reviews are actually getting more and more positive.
That's good, because it looks fun.
It looks fun. It looks good. The main thing I've read about it, I have not played this, so I'm just spouting what I've read. I'm parroting right now. Is that the game has some repetitive mechanics. The puzzles in the game basically are fetch and deliver ones. You grab a block from one side of the map and bring it to another side of the map. You walk into a room and there's a square shape and a circle shape and a triangle shape, but there's a missing square, so you have to go find the square. So that tends to be what most of the puzzles are. And then apparently any of the monsters in the game you have to run from and hide, a la Outlast and games like that.
Interesting.
So those are the negatives I've heard about it, is that it tends to be repetitive. Okay. But overall, the story, the experience, the characters, the everything, more or less, beyond those basic mechanics, are pretty damn good.
Cool. Like,
they seem to be pretty damn good, and the game looks awesome. So I'm down to try that when I have an open slot in my gaming index.
I was gonna say I need to start going ham on my backlog.
I need to delete some things from my PS2 memory card, because I'm ready to play some new games, and that one looks cool. I'm ready for that, dude.
It's funny you make that joke because you just You found a PS2, didn't you?
Okay, so yeah, we can talk. Yeah, I'll talk about that too. Yeah, me being my thrift store thing at the thrift store.
He's the only one that has luck. I go to the thrift store, I find nothing.
So this was my housemate. He discovered this PS2 console at the thrift store. It has a blue controller, clear translucent plastic controller. Awesome. Original first release of the console. Ooh. Awesome. Power cord, video AV cord, and actually no, there wasn't any memory card, so I'm lying about that. But all of that for $35.
Wasn't there a little gift inside too?
And there was a little gift inside that was a surprise. Ooh. It was one of the games that Garrett and I both hold very near and dear to our heart. We opened the tray and there is Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time.
Oh, what a classic.
For the PS2. Garrett and I hold the Xbox original version close to heart, but the PS2 version is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. It's the same game, obviously, and you still have the same scene, Farah, as you're drinking from the fountain greedily, slurping it down, and she's running off, and then goes to the gate just before it closes. He goes, oops, the gate closed. Looks like you'll have to find a way around.
I like the story of the game. Is gates closing and finding another way around.
It's catch up to Farah, gate closes, find a way around. Oh, there you are. I finally found you. Gate closes. Find a way around. Oh, there you are. I finally found you. Bridge collapses. Find a way. Okay. But I digress, but it's a fun game, and I was really stoked to find that. What I also found were some Game Boy cartridges.
Ooh, I know you've been collecting those.
I have been collecting those. I plan to resell these. I got Pokemon Gold, Pokemon Silver, Powerpuff Girls Mojo Jojo, which is one that is from my past, and a Legend of Zelda one. I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it was for the Game Boy Color. And I never played it before, so I'm pretty stoked about that one.
Ooh, okay. I know which one you're talking about. I think it's, is it Oracle of Ages?
Oracle of Ages, that's the one, dude.
Okay, there's two of them.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Well, there's Link's Awakening, too, which is also on the island. But that's the one. I think that's on the Game Boy original. This is Game Boy Color.
Okay.
So, anyway, I found these cartridges. I was super stoked. I got them for $4.99 each. So I'm going to resell them. But the main one I just wanted to try for the sake of reliving my past a little bit was a Powerpuff Girls one. Mm-hmm. Just like Neopet, some of you may laugh. Yeah, I had an older sister. We had a Powerpuff Girls cartridge. I played it too. That game is hard as hell. That game is hard and mean. So the levels basically run off. Well, first off, whatever the professor's name is, he gets kidnapped by Mojo Jojo. That's the story. He's kidnapped. Find him, save him. Mojo Jojo kidnapped him for no reason.
No, not Professor.
And then basically you have to play as one of the girls. You go through these levels where you have to collect and kill 70 something things, and the number obviously increases as you go through levels. I just remember vividly as a kid, I played this when it was new. So I had not touched this cartridge since it was new. So this was my first time seeing this in like almost 19 years.
That's insane.
But what I vividly recalled as a kid was the sounds it made. Like, first of all, when you hit an enemy, rah, rah, like that sound stuck with me. That was still echoing in my head, and I would hear it in my head like once a week or something throughout my entire life. And then the sound when one of the girls gets hit, she goes, oh, and so when I replayed this, dude, and I put that cartridge in, I was like, I want to hear these sounds again, and I heard them, and
blast from the past.
It ticked that wonderful little nostalgia vibe in my head, and I loved it.
Back when we still had happiness and we were children.
Dude, yes. It was just kind of cool because those sounds were only in my memories, and I wasn't sure how true to life they were, and it turns out they were pretty damn true to life still. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, how much did you get the PlayStation for?
I said it already. $35.
Oh, it's $35?
Yeah, $35.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jeez, what a steal.
That's a pretty... I mean, as far as from what I heard from my housemate, he said that after getting it, he then sees the next day, he sees a guy who goes in often to buy things.
Oh no.
The guy waddled in apparently today and went over to where the PlayStation 2 was. He sees that it's missing, and apparently he just pounded the top of the counter in anger and then left abruptly. So I call that pretty satisfying.
Ooh, just knowing that story now it's just like sitting on your mantelpiece.
So as we know, thrift shopping is a competition. I said this in the other podcast episode where I talked about it. It is a competition. Whether you realize it or not, those who do it often are competitive as hell. So when you get a moment like that, you revel in it a little
juicy.
bit. You revel.
I've only experienced it once, and it was good enough for me.
It's a pretty juicy bit.
Well, I think that's all we've got for this week. Thank you again for listening. We've been having a lot of fun with this.
A lot.
Just one last thing. What game do you plan on playing next?
Well, there's the new Grounded update came out, so I kind of really want to play that. And I was actually planning to play that before this episode, but I didn't get around to it. So I might drop in on that and play that some more.
Cool. And I'll be jumping in on the remastered Spider-Man.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm actually gonna try to finish it before the next episode.
How far are you in it by now?
Not far. I've literally like press play.
Professor Octavius.
I basically am at the first level. So
Yeah.
it's a short game, so I'm gonna try to power through it so I can talk about more about my backlog.
Totally, dude.
But yeah, tune in next week for another episode of Out of Mana. You can follow us on social media at podoutofmana. That's Instagram and Twitter. You can email us at podoutofmana@gmail.com. And you can also follow us on Twitch at Out of Mana Plays.
And you can also follow us on YouTube and watch us on YouTube, not watch, but listen, at Out of Mana. So in the meantime, feel free to drop us a comment either on Twitter or YouTube, or send us an email to the provided email, and we would love to hear from you.
And we will catch you next week. You've been listening to Out of Mana.